Hello, and welcome to Game Domains, DomainCast, where we discuss current events in the gaming industry. I'm Jake,
I am Greg.
and today Greg and I are going to be talking about another Nintendo topic. We covered the Nintendo Mini Direct in our last episode. Today we're going to be talking about, and Greg, this is kind of the first question, is it the Labo or the Labo?
That is the question indeed. I believe, like from what I've read online, the term is Labo, short for laboratory. Something about
Okay,
Japan liking their English words, kind of playing with a little bit of the definition, shortening it, laboratory down to kind of a more catchy phrase, I believe. Again, could be
sure.
wrong about that one, but I've read a little bit of the background. Apparently, it's more than just like a Nintendo thing. I thought, initially I kind of read the name. I'm like, okay, Nintendo Labo. What are they really getting at here? Is it, my initial thought before I read any other information was some kind of like, new Nintendogs is what I was thinking. Like, oh, okay, laboratory, Labrador. I actually had no idea.
Oh,
And
Nintendogs.
no, apparently the term Labo is used to kind of describe any kind of group of like people or like collective of people with similar interests. I mean, it's used for businesses, it's used for clubs. It's kind of just like I think it refers to just a group of ideas or a group of like people. Basically, a really basic term. It seems to just be a collective of some kind, and they kind of use it for multiple purposes, both casual, business, anywhere in between. But I don't know.
Okay.
It's definitely interesting. It's probably the first time I've had to actually stop and think. Okay, what does this word mean? Since they came out with the Wii, because of course, Wii U, and then they come with Labo. It's like, well, Nintendo's always good at, I guess, keeping people guessing, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the Switch was the only thing that had a name that made sense to me,
Correct. That
um,
was pretty. I
or it was a noun.
well, and it was straightforward. I mean, again, Nintendo's been pretty good about, they get people talking about their products, whether good or bad. They seem to be good at generating buzz around it because I've seen some pretty polarized opinions on the Labo itself. I mean, I guess we could kind of get into what it is. I mean,
Yeah, what is the Labo itself? Yeah.
yeah, it appears to be. I mean, again, from the short 3-minute video they had, some kind of cardboard peripherals that are also used in conjunction with some game software, which you insert parts of the Switch, like the Joy Cons or
Hmm.
the actual console, and somehow, I'm assuming through like some of the motion sensors or something, it
Yeah, I
uses.
saw it was like the IR sensors in there.
Oh,
Like they,
is that what it
so
is?
it's not just the motion. Like, because I was trying to figure out how the piano works,
Okay.
like the piano in the video, like, how it works. And then I saw a couple other like review videos, kind of breaking down what they thought it meant. And I guess there are IR sensors similar to the Wii's sensor.
On
So
the
actually, what it
tops.
Yeah,
Okay.
or bottoms, or yeah, I don't. Um, yeah, I've played a few games on it. I didn't realize it even had this capability, but apparently that has the ability to sense like physical objects in space.
Oh.
So it sees which keys are moving. As I understand it, it's all hearsay, I guess. Um, so yeah, using the IR sensors and physical like motion controls and other stuff. I mean, well, like the robot's the big one that everyone's talking about, the robot pack.
Oh, that's right.
Um, all the things that it can do, and it's obviously going to entail all of the technical capabilities of the system.
Correct. Which I guess again, the kind of Nintendo is surprising. I remember, again, not so much about the Labo itself, but when the Switch was announced, it's no understatement. It's not exactly the biggest powerhouse console out on the
Mm.
game world right now. But Nintendo likes to kind of pack in a bunch of weird, like not obvious features into their systems that a couple of years down the road they'll find a way to make it useful, or they'll be like, oh, by the way, the system had this capability built into it. Like I said, like the whole IR thing, I had no idea. I knew it
Right.
had motion sensors, and I knew it had what HD rumble and a bunch of other things. And I guess
Mhm.
it's probably the combination of all those parts that allows them to have these kind of like unique ways of I guess
Well,
playing games on the system, which
and
I,
that's like, okay, so I kind of look at it. I mean, I don't want to cut into our, what are our thoughts on it segment, but like they showed one of the applications, is the piano they had the giant robot, but then they had like a really simple one where it's just a guy like you fold up and put the Joy-Con on his back, and then you use the Switch screen to make the left leg and the right leg move to make him walk by using like the HD vibrate. You know, like I don't know. I looked at it like when they released the Wii Sports came with it, and it was like, oh, this is like a fun little way to kind of get to know the system. But it's 2018 now, and I still play Wii Sports because it was like a totally fun way to interact with the system's capabilities.
Correct.
So I'm really curious, like how well, I guess we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, it's using features very creatively
Yeah,
that they
absolutely.
implement.
I honestly don't. Nintendo's all about having surprises. They've, like I said, with the mini direct, they had a couple surprises in there. I mean, things that weren't mind blowing, but it was kind of nice to see that. Okay, they're putting core games out. They're putting things for all ages. And then the follow up to that is to go kind of the exact opposite. Like people are thinking, okay, Nintendo went a little too quote unquote casual with the Wii. The Wii U was a little more core gamer, but then they went back to being like, okay, this is just a game system. And then now the follow up to all their like new Kirby, new this and that is to say, okay, guys, we're still making things for everyone in the family to play, and new and creative ways. Which you know what, good for them, because I think they've announced like right now the Switch is currently like from the system's like lifespan, it's currently on pace to be the best selling console of all time. Which again, it's easy to say less than a year into the system's life cycle, but it is pretty
But
impressive. I mean, if they're able to somehow even eclipse the Wii, which it was I think second only, like I think PS2 is currently
yeah,
the king of lifetime console sales, I want to say. But if they're able to tap into a bigger market and even get people who necessarily aren't into games, kind of like they did with the Wii. I mean, my mom, not a huge video game fan, not a huge gamer, but she actually, when the Wii came out, she wanted to get a Wii for herself and to play, because it was one of those things everyone and I mean, quite literally everyone and their mother wanted to play, because it wasn't even like playing video games, like holding the controller, using the buttons. It was kind of like oh, you want to swing a tennis racket, you want to bowl, then use the motion. I mean, it looks to be kind of an extension of that. Here's a motion, a bunch of motion controls, but now we're gonna add on some kind of cardboard peripherals to kind of use your imagination. I don't know. It's creative. I'll give it that.
I guess we're kind of seamlessly transitioning into what we think of it. I mean, that's
Oh,
what everybody wants to
absolutely.
like. Everyone's got an opinion on it. Like, you know, the variety pack is $69, so I'm gonna pay $70 for
Cardboard.
cardboard. Is it
Cardboard that
okay?
looks really really nice cardboard, but
High
cardboard.
quality cardboard. Yeah, and the games that come with it, and but so like as you were describing, like your mom and the Wii and everything, I thought back to at that point when the Wii came out, all we had for motion controls were like I forget what the PS2 had. That was you had that it was snowboarding, but basically like you rode rails
Oh, right, right.
and you tried to like hold your hands out and like the camera picked up, but it was very wonky. The motion control wasn't there. The technology wasn't ready, and the Wii came out, and I was like super, um, I don't know, apprehensive because I was kind of in that camp of like I don't want to like wave my arms around looking like an idiot. I just want to play video games.
Correct.
And the Wii came out and it was a blast. And like for the longest time, I mean, like it came out, a lot of doubters, obviously. And then it came out and everybody wanted one, and you couldn't find controllers for them anywhere. And it was
Oh,
this huge hit because
absolutely.
Nintendo makes stuff and it's just fun. Like
It's true.
it's fun. And, maybe, well, there's a ton of ways this could go wrong. The Labo experience could go wrong. Obviously, cardboard is not a hardy uh, medium with which to build like game controls. Like
Oh,
there's the
absolutely.
one like where you play drums, or like there's like a bass. Or no, it's the car simulator, and there's a gas pedal that you step on.
Hmm.
I broke two like metal and hard plastic pedals for Rock Band
Right.
with my foot. So I guess my concern with the gas pedal one would be that a kid would crush it, and then you have to pay $70 more for the cardboard, or can you get repair parts or replacement parts, or make your own out of empty Amazon boxes?
It
I
it
don't know.
looks like again, I don't know if this was officially from Nintendo or if this was some stuff like speculation, but there was some talk that I think Nintendo did announce that they were also, it's $70 for the kit or $60 for the kit, whatever it ends up being with the
Hmm.
that's all in game software, the cardboard cutouts, all that. But I believe they also were going to have an option that you could actually just buy the software itself, like through the Nintendo eShop, and then print out the cut, like I guess stencils from the their website for free,
Oh.
and you could stencil onto like cardboard and cut it out yourself, or I guess whatever other medium. I mean, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could make it out of hard plastic with the age of 3D printers. I mean, there's a lot of ways they could take it,
Yeah.
which is it's cool, but at the same time, if nothing else from a business perspective, it's pretty amazing that Nintendo is able to find a way to package up purely cardboard and a like let's say a $15 $20 maximum cost cartridge and charge $70 for it. And the thing is, it's gonna sell. I won't know.
Hmm.
We won't know if it's gonna be like a huge seller, if it's gonna be like flying off the shelves and you'll be able to find it, or if it's gonna be kind of like the widely forgotten Wii Music. I mean, there was plenty of good Wii games out there, but there was Wii Music, the game where people got to shake their controllers to play trumpets and play weird renditions of the Mario theme. That's about all I remember. And then that terrible E3 video of some guy like just getting all bent up
Oh
over
yeah.
playing the drums or something. Again, Nintendo's had a lot of success in the past. Some of it's justified, some of it's not. I'm personally a little torn on it. I don't think I personally will be playing the Labo. It looks like a really cool idea, especially from the trailer. I kind of got some like almost Lego vibes from it. Like you get to
Hmm.
put your kits together and then like you can assemble it in different ways and you can have different experiences. I mean, much like a Lego kit, you can put it together millions of different ways. Have some cool ways to express your imagination and everything. But I get
Well,
the distinct feeling it's a little bit under my age group for the product. And nothing wrong with that, but I'm thinking this is more for like a family event, like family gathering or younger children. Probably not so much, the 20 somethings that are growing up with other video games to play as well.
yeah. For now, I'm kind of in that camp that it seems to be a younger person's game. Um, I find it fascinating that Nintendo, which has, I mean, it's a video game company like Mario, Zelda, like it's a video game company. They're finding a way to use their video games and their console to like actually create something in the physical world, like it's manifesting backwards.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so now they're taking on Legos and erector sets and what's the other? I'm trying to think
Connects.
it was like connects. That's what I was like. I was like mechanics with an X. No, it's connects.
Yeah.
Um, connects. Like it seems to be in that kind of vibe. I loved it as a kid. I don't know right now if I see room in my life for that, but who knows what's going to come out next?
Oh,
I'm trying to like what game could come out with its own cardboard peripherals that would be fun to make or modify or customize. I don't know. I see a ton of potential.
Then that's exactly it. I think if this does well, I think a lot of other companies, especially I'm imagining some of the other bigger development companies like EA, some of the other publishers will probably follow up with some of their own, like maybe not their own like unique IPs, but they might come out with their own like twist, like Ubisoft, famous for their like Rabid, like the Rayman Rabbids and all that stuff. I could see them doing like a party game, like make your own kind of like wacky like kits for each of the Joy Cons, and then like each person has to make their little like paper rabbit do something. I don't know. Again, just an example. I could see them having some pretty cool like again party games with this. If everyone has their own Joy-Con. Um,
I just saw the obvious partnership here.
hmm.
Metal Gear Solid.
Well, hey, if it wasn't for Konami, absolutely, destroying Kojima's dreams and like turning, I think, Metal Gear Solid into a pachinko machine, I think getting a nice tie-in for the next Metal Gear release on the Switch, if that ever were a thing. Get the little
Yeah,
cardboard box going around, get some sneaking
yeah.
action. It really,
It's the most interactive cardboard experience ever. You fold yourself into a cardboard box and play Metal Gear Solid for hours on end.
I, I see no reason why Konami shouldn't just be calling us up and asking us to pay them to make that idea a reality. I mean,
To license our idea.
well, why not? I mean, I'm sure we're the first people on the internet to think of the idea of putting players inside of their own cardboard box to experience the full Solid Snake experience, right?
Probably not, I guess, now that I think about it.
No, but
Um,
I don't know. Like I said, lately Nintendo has been doing a lot of things like as far as making me think about, I guess, what defines a game what exactly
Hmm.
the games are going to become. Because I mean, not directly related, but I mean, even look at like Pokemon Go. Not developed by Nintendo, but they licensed the Pokemon franchise out to a real life, like to Niantic to develop a like interactive way to play a famous, franchise. I think Nintendo's starting to realize that if they really do want to compete with like the big, AAA developers and on Sony and Microsoft, they aren't going to be going directly against them in like their development costs. They need to find ways to be creative to get players to be interested in their games without having to spend like, $100 million on the budget for a game. And I think they're doing it the right way. I think they're at least taking like good risks. They're trying new ideas that again they could flop, but at least no one else is doing things like them. Like it's one thing to make a big, the next Madden game, or the next,
Hmm.
the next franchise entry in whatever game. I mean, it's kind of expected every year. With Nintendo lately, though, I can't say I'm expecting. Okay, there's a Mario game and there's a Zelda game, but as we saw with Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, they're definitely not afraid to take risks with their franchises, and I think that's the
Right.
first time in honestly decades that I think Nintendo's starting to realize they can branch out a little bit. They don't need to always play it safe. They have their fans, they have people watching them. Why not get creative with it?
Well, and that's, I mean, to me, when I think of the big video game producers, and we'll try to wrap this up. I know we're probably going long, everybody. Um, but when I look at it, Microsoft and Sony kind of fight it out with their, Call of Duty, who's got this big release, Destiny versus Halo, all that stuff.
Who's got
Nintendo's
4K? Who's got the next big, graphical upgrade and all that?
right. Well, and like Nintendo has had a lot of their own graphical like jumps that they've made. Like I forget now. Wii was one of the first to do HD, right?
I think Wii U was the first Nintendo console to be true HD at 720. Um, and then I believe the Switch was the very first one to actually be with some games 1080p. But at the same time, I remember like for the best example was the jump from watching like Super Smash Brothers Melee on the GameCube. It was 480p, looked pretty decent. Same thing happened on the Wii. Smash Brothers Brawl came out, and although like I guess resolution wise it was about the same as the GameCube as far as what the system put out, the
Mm-hmm.
game looked. I mean, you remember the first time playing it, I was in awe of how much better like the detailed models looked. I'm like, oh my gosh, like Nintendo's actually making detailed looking games again. This is great. And then of
Well,
course,
and that's
the next jump, it's like they keep getting better, which is something else.
yeah. And I think, I mean, okay, so Nintendo actually has plenty of like graphical upgrades with each iteration that they go through, but I honestly I think it gets kind of discounted because so many of their video games are cartoons.
Hmm.
So maybe you don't, oh, look at Mario's mustache hairs. They all look so realistic and sharp. It's not about that, but they like since I don't know. Well, I mean, they've always been very creative, but like the Wii took a right turn when everyone else was going left. Like they were trying for the best graphics or like the next best shooter, and Nintendo's like, no, let's see if we can get people to do push-ups on this like white platform thing, you
Exactly. And
know?
I think that was the,
And
the big separation. I think Nintendo saw it early enough because I know one of the big topics in the gaming industry right now as a whole is the cost of AAA games continues to like inflate and inflate, and it's getting to the point where unless the game sells, some ungodly, 100 million copies or some crazy amount, they aren't even able to recoup the losses from even just to break even with the cost of making it. And I think Nintendo may have saw that coming like earlier than a lot of other developers because they're like, we can keep throwing money at games and keep making them, more photorealistic and more systems and this and that, or we can try to be creative and get our money in other ways. And again, kind of to tie it to the Wii. I mean, like I said, the Wii wasn't trying to compete against the Xbox 360 and the PS3. They kind of went their own path, and they did just fine. I think they ended up selling the most systems out of all of them, and arguably the Wii was a huge household hit. I think that's the same kind of thing they're doing here with game cost rising and microtransactions plaguing everything and ways of doing this. They're trying to find a way to kind of go out on their own path and say, you know what, instead of charging people, $60 for a half-finished game that you need a season pass to complete, how about we give you cardboard accessories to kind of make your game more interactive and see if consumers find that more of a value to them. And again, at the end of the day, they're taking their own risks, and I guess time was going to only tell whether this will be a big success for them like the Wii, or if it'll turn into the next Virtual Boy for them. It could again, they've had plenty of checkered history themselves, so at this point, I'm eagerly watching, but I don't know if I'll be jumping in right away on launch day for this one. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, excellent summary. I find it fascinating. I think, I have a PlayStation 4. I don't need an Xbox also. I think they kind of fulfill the same niche for me. But I do have a Switch, and I think that it's because Nintendo does things so differently. So I can totally acknowledge the uh, novelty, almost absurdity of this Labo plan, whatever it winds up being. But I see the potential for it, and I will watch it. I may not dive in head first. Do you have any other thoughts before we close out?
No, I guess like I said, it'll be I don't know. Nintendo uses a pretty good track record, and time will tell. I guess what they're releasing this on April 20th, I believe, for like I said, $69 and $79 for another kit too, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I guess we'll
We'll
find out
see
in
if
a
it.
couple months and see what's going to happen with this. Like I said, if nothing else, people are paying attention, and as they say, what no publicity is bad publicity. So
Right. Right. All right. Well, for the Game Domain Cast, I am Jake,
and I am Greg.
and that's Greg. Thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more news coverage in the future.